This guy. Oh man, this guy. What more do I have to say? How was this character, the one that was revealed last in the Breaking Bad canon, the one with such a lasting impact and superhuman presence?
Really? How lucky for me.
A villain hinted at from one line in Breaking Bad back in 2009, and his appearance has been highly anticipated during the running of Better Call Saul.
Lalo didn't send you? No, Lalo? Who? Oh, thank God. Oh, Christ.
But then, after 9 years since he was first mentioned offhand, Lalo was finally revealed. And what a way to reveal him. I mentioned this briefly in my Nacho video, but at this point in the series, Nacho is the de facto head of the Salamanca operation since the Don is in his coma and Tuco is still in jail. Every character in the Breaking Bad universe has some kind of tell that shows off their greatest ability. For Gus, he had a distinctive deep breath and sigh that showed off his calculating mind, as well as his ability to manipulate people in making them think he was in a worse position than he actually was. Anytime he takes a deep breath, it's as if he's calculating the next best possible move. If you notice, the next line that he says out loud is always used to manipulate the person in front of him. I mean, he even uses it on Lyle in the restaurant.
Is it okay, Mr. Fring? You can go home, Lyle.
For Walt, it was his ability to copy every person whom he defeated. It was as if his new attributes were trophies in them of themselves for the people he busted. This shows his incredible adaptability, which is the only thing, second only to the mountain of luck that he has, that let him get as far as he was able to go.
Mr. White, he's the devil. You know, he is smarter than you. He is luckier than you.
For Jimmy, they were his suits, allowing him to transform into multiple different personalities, as I've discussed in other videos. The difference with Lalo is when you compare him to all these other characters, his ability highlights something much more sinister. He has the power of sight, unlike that of anyone we've ever seen. His eyes are like vipers honing in on their prey. And like a viper can see on the infrared plane, so does Lalo see in such depth that he's able to see through the camouflage that so easily fools other characters like Juan Bolsa and even Don Eladio. Unlike every other character I've talked about already, this ability of Lalo's is purely one of offense, of attack. Walter's adaptability allowed him to survive. Gus's analysis allowed him to subtly manipulate events to go in his favor. Jimmy is able to transform in order to run further and further away from the problems plaguing his life. But Lalo uses his ability to pierce through the armor of others. Visualize and attack. That's his mantra. One of the first instances we see of Lalo's superpower is after he meets with Gus Fring. An interesting parallel to Mike, Lalo starts learning about Gustavo's operation. In the same way Mike was able to piece by piece understand the Salamanca operation good enough to rob them blind, Lalo starts to do the same by looking at Gus's distribution center. So at the end of season 4 when he's introduced, he ends up being more of a foil to Mike than Gustavo, as he almost figures out Gus's plan. He's able to find the German engineer tasked with making the super lab, working against time as Mike tries to cover everything up, bouncing back and forth between Lalo and Mike, and we see this very clearly in Lalo's last line of that season, putting all the more emphasis on that parallel between the two.
Michael, is that you?
However, after that Werner Ziegler arc concludes, and now with the heavy suspicion that the Chicken Man is up to something, he turns his interest to the rest of the American operation, both the Salamanca side as well as the Fring side. And he starts by ironing out the kinks in his own operation. He knows that the Salamanca operation is in complete shambles at this point. The two de facto heads of the operation both incapacitated. And while he knows he has bigger fish to fry, he also knows that there's a lot of work to do if they ever have a chance of dominating the American market. And this is best shown in a scene that was beautifully broken down by the Illogical channel. Check out this episode if you haven't already and tell him the Malmadius sent you. Now there's a lot of storytelling with the cinematography here. We can see bits and pieces of the drug operation, but interestingly, we only ever see the perspective of each moving part by themselves. I mean, you can just see it by the framing. We can see the vendor, the hustler, and even the junkie waiting to receive his package. And this cinematography is done to emphasize that none of these individuals are able to see the operation as a whole. They only understand the parts that directly concern and benefit themselves. However, when Lalo shows up all of a sudden, the framing changes completely, because here comes the one guy with the eyesight to see everything, everywhere, all at once. And because the framing is pretty subtle in and of itself, the scene goes even further just to emphasize how truly intense Lalo's power of observation is. Just look at this line right here when one of the workers starts questioning why he's coming to crack down on the operation.
If you're holding my cash, what are you doing up here with my stuff?
And I mean, look at that. Without even looking, his level of perception is able to so easily see through the cracks of the operation. And then it goes a step further. At this point, we've all seen how good Lalo is at seeing potential issues. And he ends up dividing the stock of drugs into two distinct piles. Nacho, his right-hand man, stands there confused, asking what he's doing, staring at these two completely identical piles. So at this point, we've established that he can clearly see things well beyond what is humanly capable. And then not only that, but he goes and tastes the product, which immediately confirms his suspicions.
These are okay. But these... this not ours, man.
Bruh.
And now all of a sudden Lalo has a reasonable suspicion that Gus has tampered with their supply. Before, he could clearly tell that something big was up because of the whole Ziegler fiasco. But now he's able to bring forward enough suspicion that the rest of the organization gets involved. And Gus is forced to confront the cartel.
My shame is not simply that I allowed this to happen. It's that I hid the truth. When I discovered what Ziegler had done, I replaced the stolen product with methamphetamine I purchased locally. Some of this inferior product went to your organization.
So we see him with this meeting between him, Lalo, and Juan Bolsa. And while he's able to make up some clear lie on the spot, Lalo pushes him further. He asks him directly about the German engineers.
What construction project? I mean, you said the German was building something. What?
As if on cue, Gus stands up to show these two bosses the charade that he prepared for them. Look at Giancarlo Esposito's performance here. It's almost robotic the way he gets up out of the chair and walks over. Almost like one of those wind-up soldier toys, getting in gear and moving on such a rigid, predetermined path. Even his announcement about this cooler that he's building sounds just as corporate and focus group tested as his whole Pollos Hermanos brand.
The most advanced inline chilling system in the Southwest.
A chicken freezer?
Chiller. Our product is never frozen.
And this is perfectly contrasted with Lalo and his gaze. Having proven to the audience already how powerful his superhuman vision is, we get this beautiful shot. The sparks flying from buzzsaws grinding against the steel metal. This whole scene beautifully mirroring the frantic fire in his eyes. Look at them moving around in pure focus, analyzing every minuscule detail. However, without any solid evidence at this point, this isn't enough to fully compromise Gus in the eyes of the cartel. So considering this, Lalo starts poking and prodding just to gain a reaction. He talks with Mike, and afterwards, when all is said and done, he shares with Gus the last word he heard on the phone during the whole Ziegler incident.
South wall's gonna look beautiful.
That's the south wall?
And he just lets these last words stew with Gus before departing. And ever analytical as always, Gus does not even flinch when processing this information. Afterwards, things start to ramp up. Both Gus and Lalo are parrying back and forth at each other. Tensions are high as each one is trying to sabotage the other. Lalo ends up getting himself a crooked lawyer, a man completely outside of that cartel world. And now he has an avenue, through Jimmy McGill, to feed the DEA information and disrupt the Fring supply chain. In response, Gus's operation makes it so that Lalo gets arrested. And then in response to that, Lalo orders one of the Pollos Hermanos restaurants be completely destroyed. And he's completely unfazed by any of this. Lalo is there laughing, even while in jail, his feet up and sandals off. He's there, in jail, But just by looking at this framing, without having ever seen Better Call Saul, which one of these two looks like they're in more control? Which one has all the power and is demanding attention in the frame, and which one is being crushed, almost obscured completely by the other person's presence? No. Lalo was in complete control, and he always has been. Interestingly enough, there are 2 times where his gaze fails to see what's right in front of him. The first is with Nacho. He somehow does not realize that Nacho was working against his interests and that of his family. But in all fairness to Lalo, that's probably because of the pure spectacle of it all, with him breaking into a completely compromised cartel front while the DEA is about to break in. And because of that, he doesn't realize that Nacho is also compromised, to the extent where Lalo's willing to bring Nacho over the border to meet with the Don, and also invite him into his own private villa. But the second time is in this court case. It's subtle, but I think it so interestingly highlights his character, emphasizing just the pure psychology of Lalo. He's able to piece things together very quickly, and then be able to make connections with only a glance. Now, we've seen this, and he's clearly very adept at observing and striking. However, he's unable to recognize that this crying mother in the courtroom is the same mother of the man he murdered in cold blood. Jimmy actually has to coax him into finally understanding by giving him follow-up after follow-up information. I mean, he's spoon-feeding this information to him. And then look at this.
At the travel wire.
Lalo just quickly acknowledges with a nod and moves on like it was nothing. And obviously, it all probably was nothing to him, being able to take a life without a second thought. And then after the whole Bagman incident, when Lalo tasks Jimmy with bringing $7 million across the country for bail, Lalo's gaze was again highlighted. The framing cluing us in on what he's focused on as he investigates the wreckage. The pinhole perspective of the car emphasizing the focus, and Lalo quite literally sees through the holes in Jimmy's story. And after such an intense confrontation with Jimmy in his home, Kim is the one who convinces him that he can't afford to distrust Jimmy. He was the only one he could trust with the money, after all, in the entire organization. I mean, that was a lot of money, probably enough to buy out Squilliam's mansion. Click on the card in the corner if you haven't watched my episode about that yet. But this conversation actually emphasizes another interesting aspect of his character. And it's all in that smile. Unlike Tuco, who had this psychotic laugh before he was about to violently explode, Lalo is more subdued and human. He acts almost like he's in a soap opera, the smile attempting to disarm those around him while his eyes do all the work. Almost like a cat playing with the mouse in front of him, making a spectacle of bringing down his enemies. Lalo's intense gaze all comes to a climax down in Mexico. Not only is he focused on how Nacho will perform, symbolically noted as Lalo is tuning up his own car, but he's also very focused and actively thinking about the future. He continues to think about the future, about his next step in strengthening the Salamanca operation, and remains completely oblivious to the impending assassination attempt, all while he remains completely focused on the future. And what happens only moments before Gus's men come to do the deed? There he is, Lalo. Of course, the man with the most focused gaze wouldn't be able to close his eyes. It's the middle of the night, and of course he's right there, sitting down as kind of a final boss for Nacho. This is one of my favorite conversations of the show, and the writers continue toying with us, just letting the suspense build and build and grow and grow.
I don't know. I'd rather get some shut-eye.
And yet here we are.
The same gaze that we saw light up with those grinding buzzsaws is now lit up by a warm fire, serving to reinforce the danger of his hawk-like vision, but also serves to parallel that Gus's influence reaches so far as Lalo's own home in Mexico. And here's poor Nacho, unable to make the final move that will condemn his fate in a desperate flail at freedom from this world. Here's Lalo sitting at the gate. He even jokes about how he can't sleep. Maybe he'll never even close his eyes ever again. He can't look away. He can't look away.
Yeah, I never sleep much.
An hour, maybe 2. It's enough.
And in a final act of desperation, Nacho finally finds his opportunity.
Adentro en la cocina.
And even still, Lalo still avoids death. He had contingency plans on top of contingency plans, but instead of going through with any of these, instead he goes on the offensive like he always has. He takes down all of the assassins and makes a plan on how to get his revenge. Now at this point, Lalo is a threat unlike any other. He has a good idea of what Fring is up to, and he devises a plan to infiltrate and strike virtually undetected. He's a full-blown ultimate antagonist. And if we go to Season 3, Episode 2 of SpongeBob, we can see a direct parallel when Squidward finally snaps and becomes the ultimate antagonist against SpongeBob and Patrick. No, at this point, he is truly devious. Before he was going to fix up the cracks of his organization, at this point, he's out for blood and willing to burn everything to the ground. And he's gunning for the top. He goes to Germany to figure out what exactly Werner Ziegler did while in America. And once this is complete, he goes forward with his plan. Despite everybody looking for the guy, nobody has eyes on him. He's smart enough to immediately realize when a phone is being bugged. And while he may have lost the partial element of surprise, he still knows that nobody understands his next move. So to throw everyone off, he uses the last wild card he can think of. He's 1, 2, 3 steps ahead. He fools everybody with this diversion. And I love the way that they treat him in this scene. He's completely unrelated to any of this minor drama. Jimmy and Kim are celebrating their battle against Howard to the point where they're basically gloating to the man, in shambles right in front of them. I love Howard in this scene. I might just make a whole video about that too if you guys want. And in the middle of all of this, we see a candle flicker. Like a demon who was summoned, like a phantom, like something not of this world, he appears. And he leaves us with that haunting cliffhanger.
I think I'm in the middle of something. There's really no need to... Okay. Let's talk.
After creating this diversion and being able to isolate Gus by himself, he's won. He uncovered the plan to usurp the cartel, and he has Gus dead to rights. It's only this cocky foolishness that led to his downfall. After letting out his hatred in a fiery monologue, Gus sets off his trap. He kicks the wire, causing a full blackout, leaving enough time for him to reach his gun. He empties his gun completely, having landed a successful shot. He shouldn't have won this battle. Gus was outplayed and frankly outmatched. Just like Walt, it came down to a matter of luck at the end of the day. How ironic Lalo gets buried with Howard, the same guy he didn't think twice about before. The quote-unquote innocence, so to speak, of both Gus and Jimmy ended with that burial. Both of these people representing unbelievable forces each of them had to overcome.
I need to see you a boss.
And with that, they transform into their iconic characters of Breaking Bad. Ones with cold, calculating morality, and ones that will never make the same mistake twice. Honestly, based on all this, it's frankly a joke, all the other adversaries that Gus had to face. No one was as smart, as intuitive, as lethal as Lalo was. Walt couldn't even dream of operating at that same level of Lalo. I mean, look at Walt in this scene. He's also trying to get Gus, and he's got to the point where the guy just thought, maybe I could walk over to Gus's house with a gun and kill him in the middle of his neighborhood.
Go home, Walter.
And like, after Lalo, of course it would never be that simple. No one could compete with Lalo. And I'm so glad that Tony Dalton gave us this unbelievable performance. Now, I want to pass the question off to you guys. Which of these cartel dons was your favorite? Don Eladio, Don Bolsa, Don Hector? Vote for it in the pinned comment down below, and I'll tell you who won in the next video. Also, let me know your favorite cartel moment in the series. I feel like I've only scratched the surface of this. Last time I asked you guys if you liked Mr. Krabs or Plankton better, and Mr. Krabs just barely won. I mean, I guess I don't have a lot of single-celled organism fans in my audience. Before we go, I want to let you know I have a second channel for any gaming content. Check it out when you get the chance. I'm the Malmadius, and as always, have a great day, and make it a great day for someone else. Take care, everybody.
He's a fool, right?